So, I read a book called Masters of Doom. Formation of id Software all the way up until after Carmack, or as Carmack's slowly exiting the company. Alright? And all the people that leave in between, all the drama. It goes into Ion Software, who, which was John Romero's company after id Software, and the failure it had with the absolutely terrible Daikatana. It's a pretty good book. It's from a guy who was a journalist for games magazines. All right, so he knows what's up. You know, he's written other books, but this is the first one I read by him. His name is David Kushner. He's a very good author. The book keeps you interested the entire time. I really did enjoy learning in the background, all the stuff that happened with all of them, and what went on with them. There was a time in which they worked at Softisk, and all the stuff that happened there, stuff that happened beyond that, which was obviously a lot. They're the granddaddies of modern first-person shooters. As I'm sure you may or may not know, they came up with Wolfenstein 3D, and then shortly thereafter they did Commander Keen. They did they worked for Apogee their time at Apogee Software, their time at everywhere. It was missing. It's up until about the release of Rage. That's something they don't mention it. They talk about how Carmack was rocket scientist and how Romero was the rocket, and about how he was the one that made sure, that they both loved what they did. You can tell that from just the games alone. They loved what they did quite a bit. They still do. There's just, it's just a really overall a really good book. If you like the history of video games, I strongly recommend it. It is genuinely good book from point A to point B. I loved all of it. It was interesting finding out about with id Tech, how he figured out things. You hear them talk about other things like people that join what they went on to do after they left. If they left, id Software is pretty much no longer there except for like one person. I forget who exactly, but he's still there. It's quite interesting to see all this happen over decades. I grew up playing Duke Nukem 3D and Wolfenstein 3D. I grew up playing Commander Keen. I had a dear friend who who had the Commander Keens and gave me the shareware versions of them because we were kind of cheap kids. We were poor kids, so I spent $1 on the shareware for Wolfenstein 3D, fell in love with it, found the copy of Doom 2 in stores, bought that, and just overall, they really set a whole new standard for what was going to me. If you like, are the reason why you're playing the game I'm playing now, Doom Eternal. You can even take and thank the original Doom for this, because if it wasn't for the original Doom, we wouldn't have this game, and this game is really on it. You know, it's just a matter of it's just really to Romero leaving to other things. You know, Sydney, Triad, or no, you know, they all went on to do things after, and it goes on about that. Um, a final update them, and Romero is now that's located in Ireland, which is really cool. Um, he's, but they're not like the 3D made it huge. I have that, not hardly at all. In fact, if you ask me, Doom, the old Dooms, I have every single Doom game ever made, and they all so amazing. They're all excellent. They're all very well looked in my opinion, times in my life. Obviously, as I mentioned. So yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with how much detail it goes into. 'Cause it goes into a lot of detail. It goes into what really happened behind the scenes. It goes into the ego that Romero got and how he got more focused on besides playing, playing games. You know, Key designer who's still around returned. Okay, they're okay, still around. Carmack is still working in games as well. He just went from id to I don't know who he's working for now, but he's now working on I have to agree, VR is the next step in gaming. Do not have a VR, so I just one and play my games on here every so often. Bit my PC, but, I mean, even StarCrash can think it's for Doom Eternal, because or for Doom and id really, they were ahead of the curve on everything. The weirdest thing, kinda this, that, and the other. They less famous, but they're doing reboot, I guess, for PCs. Excited for it, but that's not important. The fact that Commander King is still around is cool. John Romero did make something called Sigil Doom. It's the official. It's considered by id to be the official fifth, which which they said for decades was coming out. They go through Call of Doom, which was going to be Doom 4, which turned into Doom 2016. Which Call of Doom was a. They go into it a little bit about Doom 4, about how it was going to be like Call of Duty, but it ended up going nowhere, thankfully. Because, honestly, if you're really into any sort of gaming information, check out the book. You figure a company like id wouldn't be that interesting, but got in the way. Their egos really screwed things up. Well, Romero's ego kind of did. Highly, I mean, especially if you are a fan of shooters. They did the granddaddy of them all. They did all that you can remember, And it's amazing how far things have gotten since then. It's amazing how far things have came since that time. Because I can remember a time when I can remember a time when games weren't what they are now. So I grew up in that time. I grew up in that time when a store 2016 a lot of things had worked on. We also go into the controversy with Columbine and Dylan and them playing Doom and all the stuff that happened there. They're evil and for our puritanical fuck society. I honestly do strongly recommend it. It was books. He did another one called Wasted. Or I just want to say I cannot recommend enough. If gaming history, seriously, check this game out. It is because stepping back at that point to make rockets, like literal rockets. He's a literal rocket scientist. But it just, they go into all this stuff and all this time period that we don't know much about because, or a time period that we don't remember much about, or we don't know what happened with Carmack and Romero, and what happened with everybody. A lot of them still making games, and they are. I don't know where the rest of them are at, but they told the story of software that is the time because, people go now and look at Rage 2 and Doom Eternal, which they're like, holy crap, these games are amazing, but wasn't always, games didn't know, like, when I first saw Doom, crap, those graphics were amazing, and it's kind of talking about the AI system he built, and the graphic system he built, And it goes up to Quake, which I gotta be honest, I never played. It's always been on my list of games to play. It's on my bucket list. Someday I need to play Quake. I mean, being a fan of it, I have to. It's kind of a requirement, I kind of modern consoles. It would work well, amazingly on modern consoles because modern consoles would do it justice, So Mac. The last thing he worked on for id Software was Rage, and then he did Doom 2016. There was like a cradle level mode, which he worked on that because the hacker mentality, which is a really good, and so they have always been about open source code of their games for people to hack and pick apart and stuff. It's really cool to see that Carmack's still involved in that, and they wanted to. And from what I understand, they're doing mod support for Eternal at some point after this whole freaking lockdown thing stops. So I really enjoyed the book. I really did. I intentionally waited a while to do the review. I've read the book. I listened on an audiobook. Same thing as freaking reading it. I read the book twice, and I was impressed the first time and the second time because they were so good. They worked so the book absolutely excellent. I've ever read. It is to the point. It is straight to the point. It's and it does this good job of it starts out and it starts out. Wow, I'm already done. That's so satisfying. It starts out at the beginning of it all. It starts out with them at one of the CESs or something. I don't freaking remember what. It starts out at QuakeCon, and then they're to do a keynote, and it goes from there, and goes to that point in the book, and goes past that point. The failure of Daikatana, Doom 3 being something else. It's a good book. I would recommend it if you are like I said, if you're into first-person shooters. It is an absolute love first-person shooters. You need to read this book if you love id. You need to read this book if you know the names Carmack and Romero. These are not names that these are not just are important people to everything. These people are important to all of gaming. Honestly, because of Wolfenstein 3D and because of Commander Keen, Wolfenstein 3D, and Doom, people don't because those three games, the face of gaming has changed, and this goes through all of it. I cannot recommend it enough. I cannot recommend it and check out.